Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Love, Life, and Energy. I'm your host, Michelle Chung. I've got another amazing, incredible special guest. Her name is Mardi Winder-Adams. Today, we're talking about divorce and how this can actually be a very beneficial time in your life. So, if you're going through this, or you know somebody who's going through this, or you've been through this before, you are going to love this episode. So, stay tuned. Welcome to Love, Life, and Energy. I'm Michelle Chung, and this podcast is your go-to sanctuary for personal growth, designed for busy, career-driven women who are ready to embrace their highest potential and not settle for an average, ordinary life. Let's grow and manifest your dream life together. Hello, Mardi. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, Michelle, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm really excited to talk with your listeners and talk with you again.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I think we got along so well, and I really wanted to have you on the podcast because relationships, we're talking about divorce as well. This is a very important subject in our world today, and we do have high rates of divorce. And why I wanted to have you on the show was because your topic is particularly about how divorce can actually be a place for personal growth. And I'm all about personal growth. So I wanted to have you in today. And so just to quickly introduce Mardi, she has over 30 years of experience assessing high achieving individuals in navigating those challenges of that high conflict, complex and high asset divorces. So she's also an international speaker, a best-selling author. She's a certified trainer. And she also has an amazing podcast called The D Shift, Redefining Divorce and Beyond. So she's super accomplished in this area. She's really the expert. And so can you share a little bit about yourself and your experience with divorce and something even about your clients?
Oh, sure, Michelle, I would love to. So I think you have to experience things to be able to help people through them. I really believe that. You can do a lot of work, and I really believe in having certifications and training and book smarts. But I also believe that really having walked the path that you're helping your clients with, I think is really important. I got married later in life. I waited because I was young, I was traveling, I was doing things, I was having fun. And I waited until I was in my late 30s, mid 30s to get married. And unfortunately, the relationship wasn't horrible. There wasn't violence or any kind of abuse or anything. It just it just wasn't there for me. You know what I mean? Like, we were really good friends that got married, that loved each other, but we probably could have lived as roommates and it would have been the same relationship. We stayed together for about 5 years, but really 18 months before that, I was already out the door mentally in the relationship. It was just a matter of actually going and filing for divorce. So got through the divorce process. And at the same time, I was training to be a family and divorce mediator. And I thought to myself, there's got to be a better way to do this process. Now, this, mind you, this was almost 30 years ago now. And really, the only option people had was to go to an attorney. That's all people did. Sometimes, if you had a lot of money, you might go to a tax accountant or a financial planner and get some advice, but it was pretty much the attorney. And let's face it, the attorney's job is to guide you through the legal process. They're not there to be your therapist or to help you with the day-to-day stuff or to help you with the emotional overwhelm. And so I went through my divorce and went on with my life but still really felt uneasy about the way that was handled. And I did a lot of work on myself. I got my ICF and BCC coaching certification. I was a domestic violence client advocate for many years. And then I went into the leadership and executive coaching. And what I found was that not quite all, but almost all of the clients I was working with in big companies were not just dealing with issues within the company. They were dealing with a lot of distress and emotional overwhelm about failing relationships in their homes with their partners. So once people found out that I was coaching, once they found out that I was also this divorce and relationship mediator, all of a sudden, all of my coaching sessions started becoming about divorce. So I thought, I've got this training. I've got this expertise as a coach. And now I know that people want to talk about divorce. And divorce coaching was just getting started then. So I did the certification. I started working with clients, and I love it. It's where I want to be. And every time I work with the client, I mostly work with women, but I do work with some men. I hear people come in who say, I don't even know where to go. I don't want to stay in this relationship, but I don't know the process. I don't want to cause problems. I just want this done easily. And I've gone and talked to my attorney, and they want $10,000 as a retainer. And I don't have that. I don't know where to go. I don't know who to deal with. And when I see, as a coach, as we don't ever tell anybody what to do, we just ask questions, hold up that mirror, allow people the time, hold space for them. And in working through the coaching sessions, when I see a client that goes, you know what? This isn't that tough. I know I can handle this. I know with the little support I can get through this. That makes all the difference in my life. And that's why I do this, because I really believe that divorce is seen as such a failure in our society.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Yeah.
you've done something wrong, you've created the problem. And it's really not. It's a recognition that a relationship is no longer sustainable. And if people just accepted that and looked at it as a way, we're going to part company, we're going to go on about our lives, we want each other to be happy and healthy and okay, I think we could end a lot of this conflict with divorce and a lot of those feelings of, I messed this up, which haunt us if we don't deal with them.
Yeah, that's so true. And divorce is traditionally seen as, you're right, the legal aspects, the monetary, the financial, the very strategic part, and the feelings are often brushed aside. So it's really important work that you're doing because would you say that often the messier divorces are based on ignored feelings and unfinished business anyway?
I would say 100% of high conflict. Now, I need to be a little cautious here. Technically, the term high conflict divorces, it tends to be people who are divorcing high conflict people, so toxic people. And
Okay.
I don't like to use any kind of diagnosis, but so I won't. But I just want to throw it out you. These are the people who are divorcing the sociopaths, the narcissists, the people with those cluster B personality disorders, borderline personality, this kind of stuff, people who are highly manipulative, people who have really been abusive, maybe emotionally, financially, coercive control, those kind of people, you're dealing with a special kind of divorce problem. But most people going through divorce are not dealing with those high conflict people. And in the non-high conflict kind of divorces where people just don't see eye to eye, a lot of that stuff, you're right. It's communication breakdowns, it's lack of understanding, it's unmet expectations. I married
Mm,
you and I thought you would change and you never
right.
did. It's
My
kind of
goodness.
things, right?
Yeah. Would you say that's one of the more common ones where, and I heard someone say before that men wish that women had stayed the woman that he had met, and
Right.
women wish that would become his potential or something like that,
Yes.
that he would
Yeah.
change. So those unmet expectations from day one.
And it's unrealistic. I can't tell you how many women I talk to, Michelle, who say, I knew as I was walking down the aisle, I was making a mistake.
Oh my goodness.
But everybody was there. The wedding was already paid for. People were there. And I thought, I'll make it work. And they went
Oh
through
my
with the
gosh.
wedding. And that's, I hear that a lot.
Oh my
And
goodness.
stayed for 5 years or 3 years, and sometimes they stayed for 30 or 40 years.
Wow.
We do crazy things sometimes to satisfy our parents, our friends, our family, society as a whole, maybe our religion, whatever it may be. People will stay in those unhealthy relationships.
Wow. So they were literally walking down the aisle and they knew that they were making a mistake. Can you tell us about a little bit about if clients have shared about that mistake, what that misalignment actually was,
You
why
know,
they
I
thought
think
that?
Yeah, I think really the misalignment comes in that I think, and I'm going to be very stereotypical here. So I think a lot of women really believe that there is this shining prince in this shabby suit that if they can just help them
Yes.
change, they're going to
Yeah.
unearth this perfect partner. So I think they're in love with the potential of what a partner might
Yes. This is what
be.
women do. Yes.
Yeah. And I think men tend to marry people who they see as exactly the way they want them to be always. Just like you said,
Yes.
they
Yes.
want them to stay the high school cheerleader,
Hugging. Yeah.
want them to stay the homebody, or they want them to stay the woman that really just wants to, not just wants to, but the woman that wants to take on the important role of having children and raising a family. And then when women get a little bit, that group of women, when they get a little more independent and they start wanting to maybe start a side hustle, or maybe go back to work, or maybe go back to school, all of a sudden the spouse goes, wait a second, that's not the person I signed up for. But the reality is, Michelle, in the United States, anyhow, 70% of divorces are filed by women, not men.
Oh,
And
interesting.
the highest growing number of divorces in the population are those gray divorces. So women 50 plus, 50 to
Mm,
55 plus that are filing for divorce.
wow. And a lot of those walking down the aisle thinking they've made that mistake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. My goodness. In your opinion, what do you think can help with aligning a marriage more strongly? Because we talked about men's expectations, women's expectations, and our desire to not change the man. I think we've all understand that we can't change people, but we have this expectation that he's going to grow into his potential eventually, and not
Right.
every man's going to do that. So, what would be your advice or your opinion or a commentary of what your trend that can help women to choose and align with a better partner for them?
I think I believe that you need to have the very unsexy conversations about what are you willing, this is what I expect in a partner, or this is who I see as you becoming, or your potential. And having those conversations, because it's pretty clear if you ask somebody if they're, I don't know, even know a good example, but let's say they're a mechanic. And I'm again, I'm being stereotypical here because women are great mechanics too. But let's say your potential spouse is a mechanic and you really see them as having the potential of owning a chain of auto repair shops. And you really see that they have that potential and you want to support them to do that. If you ask them point blank, would you ever consider doing this? And they go, no, I'm really happy being a mechanic. You need to listen to that because I do think people give out clear information and clear signals. We just choose not to listen to them. And unfortunately, what I see is if you don't recognize in yourself how you got into that unsatisfactory relationship, you are just going to keep repeating that pattern over and over again.
Yeah, 100%. Do you feel if somebody has given you the clear indication, point blank has said, no, I'm not interested in that path, what should a woman do at that point?
I think you have two choices and they're always your choices. And uh, hindsight's 2020. We can all look back and say, I wish, or I coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? We don't want to do that. But I think in the moment when that's happening, I think we have to also be honest with them. And we have to say, or I would have to say, this is my vision of the future for us to stay together and be clear
Mm,
and don't sugarcoat it and don't wishy-washy language. Be very clear saying, this is what I see and this is what I want to do. I want us to have this business. I want to run the business side. I want you to run the mechanic side. And I see us having five shops by the end of 10 years. And if they're like, wow, that's not at all what I was thinking, then I think you have to look at if that is true, if their goal is true to just stay as a mechanic, would you be happy? And if you can honestly say, I would be happy and I would support them, then it's probably going to be a great relationship. If, however, you say, I'm happy for right now, but I'll keep working on him until he finally comes to my way of thinking, I think you're potentially setting yourself up for a lot of challenges with the relationship.
Oh, that's such good advice. Such good advice. I think a lot of us fall into this category where we do see the potential for our potential partner, and
Right.
we want to change him. We're hoping and praying that he's going to grow into that man that he's supposed to be. So it's really great advice what you're giving. And it gives women choice because I think when we're, I don't want to use the word desperate, but we're looking forward to being in a relationship too much, we tend to gloss that over and delude ourselves. So I think that's really
Yeah.
important what you've said.
And I was going to say, Michelle, one other one that's maybe even more closer to most of our hearts is if your spouse tells you, I don't want to have children, or your potential spouse, right? Even if you're engaged, even if you're standing at the altar and you know that they are saying, I don't ever want to have kids, and you know in your heart that motherhood is really important to you, you need to really think about, could you live your life putting your dream on complete 100% hold for this other person? Because I have dealt with situations where it's not that hard if you are a fertile woman and you're living with a husband or a man to be able to get pregnant, right? But if you know that your partner doesn't want children and you bring a child into that relationship, how what's that reality going to look like for not just for you and not just for him, but also for the child? It's not the same. I don't want to belabor this. There's all these things. One partner may be very frugal with their money and want to save and create a huge retirement fund. If your idea is, hey, we only live once, let's travel now, let's have fun, let's do what we want to do. That's a very different set of expectations. So it can be about any things like that where you're just dynamically on the opposite side of the spectrum. There can potentially be challenges if you can honestly not say that you would be 100% happy if they got their way. It's probably going to come up and create conflict throughout the relationship.
Yeah, I think this is needs to be the new standard of how we approach relationships, especially if you're in your midlife and you're wanting to approach a new relationship again. I think we can forgive ourselves in our younger years. We didn't know any of this. We're not holding any grudges on that, but this new way of approaching relationships, this sounds really ideal. And it's really, as you know, what I'm also advocating and focus on, the non-dating approach, that if we're really clear on our values and we're not afraid to share them and live by them, this actually creates an opportunity for the right people to come together instead of masks of many other people that could seem like potential. You remove a lot of those maybes and that heartache and that potential divorce immediately
Right.
when you're focusing on those real conversations, focusing on your values and priorities in life. So absolutely amazing.
And I do think it's this is going to sound terrible. I really do love marriage. I love it when people get married. I so celebrate it when my clients finally are able to. So I don't do the relationship coaching, but after they go through their divorce and they work on this whole personal development stuff that I start introducing during the divorce for them, and then I pass off to experts such as yourself to help them with the relationship stuff. But I am so happy when I see them marry somebody, and it just releases this amazing energy, I think, that's going to just carry through with life. But if you can't find that alignment, just jumping into any old relationship to fill a void, it's not going to be very satisfactory in the
Yeah,
long run. Yeah.
true. But you might get a lot of growth out of it if that's
You
what you go
yeah.
in with eyes open. Yeah,
Yes, for
definitely.
sure.
The topic of our conversation today is like how divorce can be a place for personal growth. Can you share some of your ideas or what's worked with clients in terms of how that growth looks like, or what is something that people can start to look at?
Thank you. That's a great question, Michelle. One of the things that I start working with my clients very early that quite often throws people off is when they come to see me, the first thing I say is before we even start talking about all the legal and the 1,001 forms and documents and paperwork you've got to get together, the first thing I would like you to focus on as my client is what do you want to be doing 5 years from now after your divorce?
Mm.
And you would be surprised how many people are like, no, I don't want to think about what I'm going to be doing in the future. I want to just get through the divorce and I'll figure it out later. And here's where that becomes a problem. If you don't know who you are and what you want to be doing in 5 years, how do you know at a mediation session or a negotiation session, or even if you're talking to your attorney, if you're going through litigation for your divorce, how do you even know what to ask for? How do you even know if, say, for instance, keeping the house is the right decision? If
Mm.
you want to travel the world, do you want to be tied down to a house? Or there's so many things that you need to think about you. How can you, what's your purpose in life? And for a lot of women, especially women who have been married for decades, their purpose has been raise their children to the best of their ability, see their kids be happy and successful, and quite often support their spouse by maintaining the home, maybe working part time, maybe working full time. But then all of a sudden, when you go through the divorce, especially if your kids are already out and on their own, there's like a big void that just, this big black hole just opens up. It's what am I supposed to do now? Everything I built my life on no longer is relevant. So if you don't start taking those steps to learn who you are, and I want to throw this out there, Michelle, you are not starting over. You have everything that you have experienced, done, accomplished, completed, you are now bringing into your future. So never feel like you're starting
Mm.
over after a divorce. So sometimes just doing a values worksheet where what are the most important things in your life? What do you value? And then where are those things showing up in your life? And when you go through the divorce, if you stay in alignment with your values, you're going to feel way better coming out the other side than if you did something shady or underhanded or something you didn't feel comfortable with during the divorce, or you made a decision that didn't align with your values. You're going to regret that as you move forward. So I think the two things I would say is values alignment and making sure you know what you want to do in the future so you can make the best decisions.
That's really powerful advice. And I think it leads to one of the misconceptions that you'd pointed out, that divorce is messy and emotional and overdrawn. It feels like that's aligned with what you're saying. If you're future pacing and identifying your goals and future and your values, you literally don't have to go through that messy divorce because you don't have to try and fight for what you feel is right for you. You can actually respectfully let go of things that are not going to be healthy for you anyway. And maybe that's what the other person wants and you're fighting over that thing. You can actually let that go.
Yes, and I think approaching the divorce always like knowledge is power. I don't care who you are or where you live, knowledge is power. So understanding what would be the upside and the downside to say keeping the house, or what would be a great way to ensure that our children are carefully cared for through this process, and any conflict or disagreement is minimized or eliminated from their life so that they can go through the divorce. And yeah, there's going to be an adjustment, but they're going to go, my mom and my dad or my parents did a phenomenal job through the family, and I still have a loving family. It just looks a little bit different than it did when we were living in one household. So there's so many upsides to really getting in touch with who you are and starting to do some work. If you find yourself being an angry person through the divorce, there's activities, there's meditations, there's reflection, there's mindfulness practices. There are things that you can do to start moving that anger so that you don't become this bitter, hostile person throughout the process.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm so glad that you're doing this kind of work. It's very important. And can you share a little bit about how you help people? You have something you'd like to give away or share with our audience?
I am not sure what I gave you. Well, but what I do have, and I if even if I didn't put it on the list, I'm going to send it to you. What I'd like to do is share. I have a vault of over 60 divorce experts that have shared their information. And what I'd like to do is I think I had, yes, the Resilience Building Blueprint, which is a really handy little 28-day guide that helps you build resilience even through challenging times. It gives you a little daily activity. It asks you to do it and then reflect on it and then see how that process changed maybe your thoughts about that. And it's also got a gratitude journal built in. So I would definitely like to leave that for your listeners. But the other one, I'm going to add this one. It is VIP access to the Real Divorce Talks recording. So there are 60 recordings of various divorce professionals who have come on my Real Divorce Talk series. And it's information on everything from how to use EFT tapping to overcome anxiety, through quantum healing, to legal advice, to financial advice, to mortgage brokers. It's the whole gamut of everything you'd want to have in divorce. I'm going to also include that so that people can just register. You have lifetime access to that. You can go in there and just listen to whatever recordings resonate with you.
That sounds perfect. So helpful. Thank you so much. Is there a final word of wisdom or guidance that you can leave with everyone today?
I think, Michelle, I think I've got to say this one. Divorce is going to be a challenge no matter how, if you wanted it, if the other person wanted it, no matter what your age or what your stage is. But one of the nice things about the world today is there are always professionals to help you. So there's divorce coaches in most countries and most areas of the world. And don't be afraid to reach out and get help. Even if it's not a divorce coach, talk to a trusted friend or a family member who has gone through the process, who can be there to provide you with that emotional support because you don't have to do it all by yourself.
Yeah, that's perfect. I think women, if you've been that superwoman your whole life and you're looking after everyone else, you feel like you can't reach out and ask for help and you got to do it on your own. Thank you for that last piece of advice. So, everyone, thank you for being here. Thank you, Marty.
Thank you, Michelle.
So, everyone, if you've loved what Marty's been talking about today and you're going through something similar or somebody who's going through something similar, please check out Marty's information. Her links are in the show notes below. And we'd love to have you maybe in future come back on the show. So yes, we'd love to have
Thank you.
you. Thank you, Marty.
Thank you.
Everyone, so make sure you check out her links and we'll see everyone next time.